And this video is gonna have only the 4 people that are like in my like family group. But I'm basically gonna be going a lot of places. I'm gonna be on a TV show. It's called, this would be the part that goes duh, but I'm actually gonna tell you it's gonna be America's Got Talent. I'm gonna be on America's Got Talent. My mom is gonna record a little bit, but that's like in December 10th, so we won't be worrying about that. I'll be
Before we start this video, I want to give a special thank you to my channel member Danielle, and if you are subscribed to my Patreon, thank you, and if you are not, make sure you head over to my Patreon so you can see exclusive videos that I cannot upload to my YouTube channel. In today's story, we're heading over to Tampa, Florida, but before we head to the Sunshine State, we first have to make a stop at Beaufort, South Carolina, where Stephanie Ann Chisholm Willis was born and raised. Stephanie entered the world in July of 1984 to her parents, Mary Chisholm and Robert Hewitt, and she had 4 other siblings, all older than her. She attended Battery Creek High School as a teenager and at some point met a man named Ricky Willis, got married, and on April 22nd, 2008, Steph gave birth to their baby boy, Ricky Ryon Willis. Little Ricky was most known by his middle name Ryon, therefore that is how I will be referring to him throughout this story. Unfortunately, the marriage wasn't working between Stephanie and Ricky, so she decided to up and leave and moved to Tampa, Florida, where she didn't have any friends or family there, but she wanted to start fresh. While living in Tampa, Stephanie picked up a job to support herself and her son. She worked as a home care aide, assisting seniors in their day-to-day lives, and on the journey of furthering her career in the healthcare industry, she became a student at the Hillsborough Community College, taking up classes for certified nursing assistant. Those who knew Stephanie stated she was a kind woman. She loved to help those around her, whether she personally knew you or not. She was very family oriented and would often go back to South Carolina to spend time with her relatives. She loved being a mom, being sure to carve out extra time in her busy life to spend with her baby boy and creating memories. Ryon entered kindergarten in Tampa and went to Crestwood Elementary School, and while Ryon did have a learning disability, it didn't deter him from doing well as the years went by. By the time he got to 5th grade, he joined his school's music ensemble and began learning how to play instruments. The drums to be exact. He loved wrestling and making YouTube videos about his little life and his family members. At some point, Stephanie reconnected with a man she knew since young by the name of Tyrone Johnson. Upon reconnecting with him, Stephanie felt like Tyrone was an amazing man and he would be the perfect fit into her humble life with her and her son. Tyrone was a former U.S. Marine Corps serving for the country from 1994 to 2002. He retired from the military as a corporal for the Marines and a sergeant for the Army. Stephanie decided to introduce Tyrone to her family when her grandmother unfortunately passed away and she had to go down to South Carolina for the funeral, so she brought him with her. Now, Tyrone also had a son who was an adult living in South Carolina. He was 22 years old. He was one of 4 of Tyrone's children, but unfortunately, Tyrone lost his son to suicide on New Year's Eve, but it isn't clear which year based on my research. Tyrone was obviously crushed behind losing one of his children, and seeing him in grief made Stephanie feel like she had to step up and be the support system Tyrone needed at the time, so she allowed him to move in with her in her Tampa apartment with Ryon so Tyrone wouldn't need to grieve alone. However, about 1 year into the relationship, after Tyrone was settled into her humble home, Stephanie started expressing how she wanted out of the relationship to her loved ones. She just didn't like how codependent on her Tyrone became, and at times she said he could be very nasty nasty and pretty angry, lashing out at her sometimes. Although no history of physical abuse, it seemed as though there was plenty of verbal and emotional abuse and manipulation coming from Tyrone's end. However, being the selfless person she was, Stephanie didn't leave his side. Tyrone was on the downside, needing plenty of help after getting a foot surgery due to an injury he got during his time serving in the military, and Stephanie was right there to drive him home from the hospital and be of service to him in any way he needed. However, one Sunday evening on October 21st, 2018, just before 7 p.m., a 911 call was made from Stephanie's home. It was Tyrone who made the call, telling the dispatcher he had just shot 2 people after being physically attacked in his home. Police pulled up to the apartment complex at 4302 Mariners Cove Court and entered the apartment to find that the 2 people who were shot were 34-year-old Stephanie and her 10-year-old son, Ryon. They were both lying next to each other, dead on arrival. Tyrone was taken in for questioning, and that's when he broke all the way down. Soon as he got into the interrogation room, Tyrone began hyperventilating. He kept choking on his words. He could barely even speak. And big shout outs to the detectives because they were very patient with Tyrone, more patient than I ever would have cared to be. And I say that because of the story Tyrone gave police about what happened to his girlfriend and her son. According to Tyrone, all 3 of them were home watching TV, and Tyrone was in the mood to watch some football, so he changed the channel. This is when he claims that Stephanie got upset with him and started to verbally bash him. He said Stephanie was badgering him about sleeping all day and doing nothing around the house, even though he was recovering from foot surgery. And the ultimate blow, according to him, was when Stephanie spoke to Tyrone's son's suicide. Allegedly, she began berating him about his son's suicide by saying, quote, "I see why your son murdered himself like a pussy because you're a little pussy," end quote. At this point, Tyrone said the argument became too much, so he went into the master bedroom to begin packing up his stuff and then FaceTime his father, who lived in South Carolina, to ask him if he could come and get him the next day because Tyrone was planning on leaving. He gets off the phone and claims that's when Stephanie came into the bedroom, yelling at him, started hitting him on his back, and pushed him off of his knee roller, causing him to fall down near the side of the bed. At this time is when Ryon allegedly came into the room, and according to Tyrone, Ryon supposedly accused him of putting his hands on his mother and pulling on him, making Tyrone have to push Ryon off of him. That's when things really took a dark turn. Tyrone snapped. He admitted to grabbing his Glock 22 40 caliber handgun and began shooting at Stephanie while she was standing over him holding a PlayStation console, stating he was acting in self-defense because he thought that Stephanie was going to attack him again by throwing the PlayStation at him. He shot her 3 times. He said Ryon had run out of the room before he even shot Stephanie, but once he heard the shots, apparently Ryon came running back into the bedroom to see what was going on, got caught in the crossfire, and that's how he ended up getting shot. Tyrone told the detectives between his pathetic panting that he felt like he had to shoot Stephanie because she was quote unquote attacking him. He claimed that all this happened in the bedroom. However, upon investigation, there had actually been evidence of a gun being shot in Ryon's bedroom. Not only that, there were bullet holes in the walls in his room. There was blood found underneath Ryon's bed as well as shell casings. Investigators say the blood under the bed was an indication that Tyrone went and sought out Ryon, who was scared to death, hiding under his bed after witnessing his mother get killed, to intentionally murder him. An autopsy later revealed that Ryon was shot a total of 6 times.
So I'm moving across to the front, all right? Yeah. Can you stand on one leg by yourself? Are you sure you're okay? All right. This is what's gonna happen, all right? I want to take your left hand out, put it on top of your head for me. That's good. Move on up. Right in front. Okay. Yeah, just have here. Go ahead and have a seat, man. Go ahead and have a seat. Good. Good. Okay. There you go, brother. Would you like any water or anything like that? No? Okay. Sir, do you have any medical conditions that we need to be aware of? You're a veteran? Okay.
Tyrone, we need you to breathe for us, all right? Because if you're just hyperventilating,
If you
pass
just
out.
breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Do it with me, ready? Just... Okay. Just breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, man, okay? We're good, man. I appreciate it. Deep breaths, okay? Deep breaths. Breathe in. Breathe out.
Tyrone, we don't want you to pass out on us, man. We need you to breathe, all right? Because if you keep breathing like that, you're going to pass out.
Yeah. Just breathe in through your nose.
There you go. Deep breath. There you go. There you go. Just breathe, man.
We're gonna get through this, okay? We're gonna get through this. We are. Tyrone, you sure you want a glass of water or something like that?
Water?
You want water? Okay. We can do that for you. Tyrone, how old are you, man? What? 42? Okay. Okay. Tyrone, let's bring it down, okay? Let's just bring it down for a second. All right? You said you were in the Marines? Yeah? Okay. How long were you in the Marines? 10 years? Okay. What do you do for a living, Tyrone? Say again? You were homeless? Okay. Are you homeless right now, or were you... I couldn't understand you. I'm sorry, man. Just do me a favor, man. Just breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth for me. Let's try to calm it down a little bit. All right? Let's just try to calm it down a little bit, okay? I just want to have a conversation with you. Take some water, okay? Take some water. There you go. Real calm, okay? I don't want you to spill it all over yourself and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Put this right down here, man. Sure. Let's not look at your hands right now, okay? Not look at your hands. Tyrone, listen to me. Listen to me. Tyrone. Hear me. Look at me. Look at me. Don't look at your hands right now, okay? Listen. Here's what I want to do, man, okay? My name's Joe, okay? I'm a detective with the sheriff's office, okay? This is Dave. He's my partner, okay? All we want to do is make sure that you're okay right now, okay? Are you hurt?
I was trying to leave.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to that, man. But listen, right now, I want to talk about Tyrone for a second, okay? Just listen to me, man. Because I want you to. I'm going to need you to calm down because I can't understand you, and at this point, man, Dave and I want to listen to you, okay? We do. But right now, Tyrone, listen to me. Let's just calm it down, okay? All right? Can you do that for me? You think we can try? You think we can try to do that? Yeah? Okay. All right. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Okay? Tyrone, you told me that you were in the Marines for 10 years, huh? Okay, when did you get out of the Marines?
2003.
2003? Okay. Did you go overseas at all?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Cuban Haitian crisis.
I'm sorry, say again?
Cuban Haitian crisis.
The Cuban Haitian crisis?
Yeah.
So you did like a lot of the relief over there and stuff like that? Yeah?
In Iraq.
You fought in Iraq too? All right. Well, thank you for your service. Do you know where you are right now, Tyrone? Where are you?
Jail.
You're not in jail. You're not in jail. Okay? You're over at you're at a police station, okay? You're at the sheriff's office in one of our interview rooms, okay? Do you understand that? What kind of medical issues do you have?
PTSD.
PTSD?
Yes.
Okay.
Aggressive disorder.
Aggressive disorder?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you take any medications?
Yeah.
What kind of medications do you take?
Duloxetine. About six.
I'm sorry, I said
Six different pills.
6 different pills? Did you take those today? You didn't take those today? Okay. All right. Do you take any drugs or anything like that? Like anything that you're not supposed to take?
I haven't smoked in a long time.
What?
I haven't smoked in 30 days, sir.
You haven't smoked in 30 days?
No, sir.
Okay, that's good. What did you smoke?
Marijuana.
Marijuana? Okay, that's not so bad. Okay, but you haven't smoked that in 30 days?
No.
Okay. Did you drink any alcohol today?
Yes.
What did you drink?
Mice.
What?
Mice.
Mike's?
Yes.
Like the hard lemonade stuff?
Yeah.
How many?
1, 2.
1 or 2? Okay. Are you a heavy drinker, or do you drink a lot? No? Okay. So are you feeling the effects of the alcohol at all? No? Not at all? Okay. Do you smoke cigarettes? No? Good for you. That's good, man. Where'd you go to school?
Buford High.
Buford High? Where's that?
South Carolina.
South Carolina? Is that where you're from?
Yes.
Cool. What brought you down to Florida?
Her.
Her? Who's her?
Stephanie.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
What's her last name?
Chisholm.
Chisholm?
Yes.
Okay. Is that your girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. Tyrone, I want to talk to you about what happened tonight, okay? Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. Are you hurt or injured right now?
Just my leg, sir.
Just your leg? What happened there?
I had surgery 3 weeks ago.
You had surgery 3 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. What was it for?
War injury.
A war injury?
Yes.
Okay. What happened?
I got crushed by a howitzer base plate, sir.
Oh. Okay. This is an awful situation, it sounds like, okay? Can you tell me what happened today?
I cooked. We had dinner.
You had dinner?
And I can't. We started arguing.
Who's we? You and Stephanie?
I changed the TV.
I'm sorry.
I changed the TV
You changed the TV?
to football.
Okay.
And we started arguing.
Okay.
And she was watching music videos.
Okay.
And we started arguing over the TV.
Okay.
And she and I called my dad and I said, come and get me
Okay.
in the morning.
In the morning?
I'm packing my stuff.
Okay.
And I was getting my stuff. And she began to hit me. And I fell over my knee wrong. And I was trying to get my crutches so I could continue getting my stuff.
Uh-huh.
And she was going to throw the PlayStation at me.
Okay.
And I was down. I fell. She was going to throw the PlayStation at me.
Uh-huh.
She grabbed my stop. I can't stop. Stop. I'm getting shit. I'm leaving. She was getting ready to throw the PlayStation at her. He just started firing. And her son jumped on me. And I just kept firing. And then he left out and he came again. And I kept firing. And I went outside. I said, somebody help me. My phone is off. And I went to get it back. I was trying to be.
I know you were, Tyrone. I know you were.
I was trying to get my stuff. And she pushed me on my knee roll and I felt like, instead of leaving.
What room were you in when this happened?
In the master bedroom.
The master bedroom?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Where were you in the room when this happened?
I was trying to get my bag.
Your bag?
And I was on my knee roller.
You were down on your knee?
I was on my knee roller trying to get my bag.
Knee roller. Your knee roller. Oh, I'm sorry. Like one of those things with, to help you walk?
Yeah.
Okay, now I understand. Okay.
And she pushed me off.
She pushed you off of it?
Yeah, I was trying to get my crutches.
Okay.
And she was getting ready. I said, I'm getting my stuff.
Okay.
And I called my dad. I said, come and get me.
Okay.
And he said, what? And then I kept asking her to stop. And when she was throwing the PlayStation, I just...
How many times did you fire, Tyrone? You don't know?
I just get...
Okay. Where was her son?
He ran in and he took me there.
He went out and then he came back in? Was he hit the first time or did he...
I don't know. I just
Was he saying anything to you? What? You said you were trying to leave? What was he saying? You heard? You heard my mommy? Hold on, Tyrone. I'm just trying to understand you. Just calm down. Did he say you hurt my mommy? Is that what he said? Yes? Tyrone, man, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Not long after his confession sprinkled with lies, Tyrone was arrested and charged with aggravated child abuse, murder in the first degree, felony murder with a firearm causing great bodily harm or death, murder in the second degree with a firearm causing great bodily harm or death, and shooting at, within, or into a building. After a hearing where prosecutors asked that bond be denied for Tyrone, the judge agreed that no bond should be set as Tyrone was deemed a threat to the general public based on the crimes he committed. He was detained at the Hillsborough County Jail. I find it crazy that Tyrone shot that many times. You shot Stephanie 3 times, but then you ended up shooting Ryon 6 times. How many times was you shooting that gun? But anyway, on Monday evening, October 22nd, 2018, a vigil was held for Stephanie and Ryon where neighbors mourned their death, and you can hear them chanting, quote unquote, no more fighting, walk away, including all the children who played with Ryon. The children were so confused as to why and how he was no longer going to be playing with them anymore. Stephanie's family said Tyrone's story was a bunch of bullshit for the most part, and they know for a fact that if he was really trying to exit her apartment, she would have gladly let him leave. They believe that Tyrone must have gotten physically violent with Stephanie, and baby boy Ryon wasn't having it, so he stepped in trying to help his mommy. They firmly believe the mother-son duo died attempting to save each other's lives. Stephanie's family and loved ones were devastated. They were in shock shock. They couldn't believe the man they had recently met, whom Stephanie felt was worthy of bringing around her family, was even capable of something so monstrous. They said they had no indication from Tyrone whatsoever that he would have ever snapped the way he did. The only conclusion they could come up with is Stephanie wanted out of the relationship and Tyrone couldn't handle the thought of being alone and just lost it. They don't believe an inkling of the story Tyrone gave about Stephanie berating him about his deceased son and whatever else he claimed. Stephanie had too big of a heart to be so nasty to anybody that she loved.
Now a family is speaking out after a horrifying double murder in Tampa involving a mother and her young son. News Channel 8's Jamel Lene is joining us live tonight from the Mariners Cove Apartments. And Jamel, I know you spoke with one of the victim's cousin. They're upset.
Yeah, very upset and heartbroken, obviously, to say the least. You know, if you take a look at the back of the apartment, the candles are still there, a memorial from a vigil that was going on last night. The family is actually going to go inside for the first time of this apartment to gather their loved ones' belonging. Their message to the shooter, the accused shooter, Tyrone Johnson, rot in jail.
We have to get them back from Tampa to Beaufort, South Carolina. We have to pay for funerals, not one but two.
Family of Stephanie and Ryon WILLIS are still in shock over their senseless deaths.
Stephanie was living her best life at this time. She was happy. We hadn't seen her happy like this in years.
Detectives tell us they were shot by Willis's boyfriend, Tyrone Johnson, Sunday evening during an argument over watching football. Willis's cousin, Courtney Hightower, said Stephanie took Johnson in after the death of his son.
You know how it feels to lose a child. You know how it feels to go through death. And she was there with you the whole time. And then you take her and her son life.
Hightower says Johnson even took Ryon out the day before the shooting.
You took Ryon out on a wonderful day. You took him to the wrestling match. That was his favorite thing.
The family, including Ryon's father, were at the apartment today trying to cope.
My son.
Honestly, I just hope he right. I really wanted him to hurt himself, do something, but I just really hope that he's able to sit there and just think about what he did.
And right now, the family is raising money through GoFundMe. As for Johnson, he remains behind bars. He's expected to be in court on Saturday, and the family tells me they plan to be there.
Little Ryon had his own goals at just 10 years old. Like I mentioned earlier, Ryon loved to record himself talking about his family, and he talked about how he wanted to travel to visit several different places, and he couldn't stop gushing about going on the hit show America's Got Talent so he can audition, showcasing his drum playing skills. He was such a beautiful spirit, you can even feel it through the screen watching him. Stephanie's sister stated the only good thing that came from this tragedy is the fact that Stephanie and her son both died together. Had one survived, it would have been just a life of misery for the survivor.
An argument over what to watch on TV led to the horrific double murder of a mother and her 10-year-old son 3 years ago. And prosecutors say the man who did it is the mother's live-in boyfriend, Tyrone Johnson. And now a jury will have to decide whether Johnson deserves the death penalty.
Fox 13's Gloria Gomez tonight shows us the chilling evidence the jury was shown in court today.
He was hiding from that man right there, Tyrone Johnson.
Prosecutors say Tyrone Johnson killed his girlfriend and her 10-year-old son.
That he went and hunted down that little boy and shot him under a bed.
Stephanie WILLIS and her son Ricky were found dead lying next to each other in a Tampa apartment complex they shared with Johnson. Prosecutors say the horrific events of October 21st, 2018 all began with an argument over what to watch on TV. Johnson's attorney says Stephanie had been drinking, and things quickly got personal, and the insults turned vile when Stephanie, they claim, insulted Johnson's son, who had just died by suicide. Johnson, they say, used FaceTime to call his father in South Carolina for help. His father witnessed some of the confrontation.
He had just been trying to leave when Stephanie attacked him.
That he hears the phone drop and 2 shots.
They say he shot Stephanie twice and then went after the boy, who they say was hiding under his bed.
We have shell casings, we have blood, we have holes in the wall. And the little boys.
Prosecutors say this was a cold and calculated double murder by Johnson, who deserves to pay with his life. However, the defense argues this was a crime of passion.
But he did do this. It was manslaughter. And as he said on the 911 call, he is so very sorry for what happened.
Gloria Gomez, Fox 13 News.
Well, that trial is expected to last about 2 weeks, and if convicted of first-degree premeditated murder, Johnson would face life in prison or the death penalty.
Trial was held, and during the trial, the defense team tried to say that Stephanie and Tyrone had been drinking, and they both spiraled out of control during the argument, and his charges should be reduced to manslaughter because this was a crime of passion. They also argued that Tyrone wasn't this monster that he was portrayed to be. They said he was a man who served his country in the Marines and Army and a loving father of 4 children, but thankfully the jury wasn't buying what the defense was selling. After the 2-week trial, it took the Hillsborough County jury made up of 7 women and 5 men about 5 hours to deliberate after seeing Tyrone's interrogation video and photos of the murder scene. And on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021, Tyrone was unanimously found guilty on first-degree premeditated murder and second-degree murder charges, and the jury recommended that he be sentenced to the death penalty.
A news alert now. The jury recommends death for Tyrone Johnson. Jurors deliberated for 5 hours today and determined Johnson will receive the death penalty for the murder of his girlfriend's 10-year-old son. Last week, Johnson was found guilty of the murders of Stephanie and Ricky Willis. Fox 13's Jennifer Holton joins us now live from the Hillsborough County Courthouse downtown. Jen, bring us up to date.
Well, Linda, this decision coming just moments ago, and it came after the jury deliberated for a little more than 5 hours this afternoon. This sentencing phase has been going on since Monday morning, and here we are Wednesday night with a decision, and that decision is that Tyrone Johnson will receive the death penalty for the murder of little Ricky Willis. Defense attorneys argue that the murders were in a heat of passion, not premeditation, and that Johnson became enraged after Stephanie blamed him for his son's 2017 suicide. But prosecutors maintained the evidence showed Johnson went looking for the terrified child who was hiding under his bed. And ultimately, the state did succeed in its push for the death penalty for Tyrone Johnson. Remember, this had to be a unanimous decision. So even if one juror decided that death penalty did not fit that crime, it had to be a life sentence in prison for Johnson, but that was not the case here today. Again, the jury deliberated for a little more than 5 hours and came to this decision that Tyrone Johnson will receive the death penalty.
As Tyrone listened to the results of the jury's decision, he showed no emotion as he just stared straight across the courtroom. Stephanie's father and Ryon's grandfather, Robert Hewitt, could be seen shaking in his seat as the jury's decision was read out loud. He said he felt like it was the best call the jury could have made, and at the same time showing compassion for Tyrone's family, stating, quote, "They didn't commit the crime, Tyrone did," end quote. Tyrone's loved ones sat behind him as the verdict was read and left quietly afterward with his attorneys, who told a news reporter the family would not be offering a statement on Tyrone's behalf. After the jury found him guilty, Judge Christopher Sabella didn't immediately agree to the death penalty sentence because all the evidence and arguments needed to be reviewed further. Well, a little more than a year later, in December of 2022, the judge decided that Tyrone will be sentenced to death.
Just a few hours ago, a judge sentenced Tyrone Johnson a year after a jury found him guilty of shooting and killing Stephanie Willis and her 10-year-old son, Ricky Ryon Willis, in 2018. Tonight, Stephanie and Ryon's family sat down with our Angelina Salcido to talk about what happened that night and what's next.
It took 4 years for Stephanie and Ryon's family to get to this point. Stephanie's dad and stepmom walked through these court doors today for what they hope is the last time. They say this death sentence isn't closure, but a chance for the man who killed their family to experience what they went through.
I mean, it's been hell.
Time hasn't healed their wounds.
My hardest part is always thinking about what they went through. Just can't imagine what would cause someone to just open fire on their girlfriend.
Tyrone Terrell Johnson charged with both murders. Robert and Amber Hewitt, both in South Carolina at the time. Stephanie's older sister Valerie was too.
I saw it, double homicide, and I just lost it after that.
Before his sentence Monday, Johnson apologized.
He's just trying to save his life.
The final decision from the judge, the death penalty.
You just never know until you put it in that position how you're going to feel about it.
It won't bring Stephanie's bright light back.
As a lovable, beautiful person that enjoyed life.
I would get a lot more closure when he's executed and I'm in the witness chamber watching it. I just want him to feel that terror. You know, and that sounds bad, but that's what I feel.
Now, this execution won't happen right away. In the meantime, the family is focused on getting both Stephanie and Ryon permanent markers where they're buried in South Carolina.
Stephanie's family said the death sentence wasn't necessarily closure for them, but a chance for the man who killed their family to experience what they went through. Stephanie's father said, quote, "I think I'll get a lot more closure when he's executed and I'm in the witness chamber watching. I just want him to feel that terror. That sounds bad, but that's how I feel. I want to be there. I hope I live another 16 years. My health isn't good, so I hope I live that long." End quote. Damn, just reading that broke my heart so bad, and not for nothing, but I pray he gets to live long enough to see Tyrone take his last breath as well. Well, first of all, I made a promise to myself not to cover stories involving children because it eats me alive ever since I covered the story of T.R. Lee Palmer. I couldn't bring myself to speak on cases involving children under a certain age. However, thank you to one of our primas that suggested this story to be covered. I'm glad I did it because both Ryon and his beautiful mommy Stephanie deserve for their names to be kept alive. Neither of them deserve to be murdered in cold blood like that. Whatever it was that they were arguing about, it didn't warrant for Tyrone to pull out his gun and kill Stephanie, then go hunt her son down in the house that they welcomed him into and kill him as well. I just did another story that's wildly similar to this one, but it's on my Patreon, where a man murdered a woman for no reason other than he didn't like what the woman was saying, so he viciously attacked and murdered her. As a man, your only job was to leave. That's it. Even if the woman is yelling, screaming, cursing you out, etc., just leave. It really is that simple in some cases, and I say some because, you know, you do have some women who will try to violently harm or even kill a man during a dispute, and that's the only time I find it acceptable to do what you gotta do, because in those cases it's like it's either you or me. However, in this case, not only did he take Stephanie's life, but he took little Ryon's life as well. Now, you do have some people who say they believe Tyrone may have been suffering with PTSD as a result of his time in the military. A forensic psychologist had actually diagnosed Tyrone with major depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, and paranoia. His condition was marked by anger. In years prior to the murders he committed, Tyrone had been treated for depression and expressed suicidal thoughts, the irony in that. And although he worked as a paralegal in the Florida Attorney General's office for a few months in 2017, he had trouble getting along with his co-workers and almost always got to work late or didn't even show up at all. It got to the point where he was asked to resign, but there was a different expert at trial that was testifying for the state and said that Tyrone's issues were not a result of any of the things stated a moment ago, but instead he possessed dangerous antisocial tendencies. However, prosecution stated that no matter the struggles Tyrone was facing, it was just not an excuse for the crimes he committed. You also got some people who believe that Stephanie quite possibly could have said those nasty things to Tyrone about his deceased son, prompting him to snap, especially if he was battling all those issues. I think at this point, only God and Tyrone knows the truth as to what happened in that bedroom and why it happened. But what I do know is that little boy died in the worst way, with sheer terror, probably knowing he would never see another day alive. He would never get the chance to go to America's Got Talent. He would never play another drum or any musical instrument ever again. Tyrone's actions prematurely removed two angels from this world, and I can only send my deepest condolences to their family and loved ones still to this day. Both Stephanie and Ryon's bodies were brought back home to South Carolina for their homegoing services. Today, Stephanie would have been 39 and Ryon would have been 15. May the souls of Stephanie and her precious baby boy Ricky Ryon Willis continue to rest in heavenly peace. Gone, but you'll never be forgotten.